Welcome back to the CryptoWorld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the Bitcoin price is finding some support along this importance moving average, while the stock market is back in the green today. And we're also forming a brand new Ethereum pattern right now and a new pattern in the Bitcoin dominance, which could potentially result in a reversal for the Bitcoin dominance, which is good for altcoin holders. But I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video. Definitely stick around. First of all, just starting off on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and what we have right here is the 1000-day simple moving average and the 200-week simple moving average. And these are currently coming in at around 28,500 and around 22,000 respectively. And you can clearly see that recently on the weekly Bitcoin chart, the price of Bitcoin has been finding a lot of support along that 1000-day moving average at around 28,000 approximately. And if you're looking at the last time we saw a lot of support for the Bitcoin price along this 1000-day moving average, that was basically at the end of 2019 entering into early 2020, and at that stage in the market we had already experienced a bunch of bearish price action, and that turned out to be a local low where we saw a pump in the Bitcoin price by around 50% approximately over the next 1 to 2 months. And then, of course, we entered into the March 2020 crash, where we basically bottomed out at around that 200-week moving average. Now, we did see a decent wick to the downside, but the weekly candle close was at around that 200-week moving average, right where we bottomed out at the end of the 2018 bear market and also at the end of the 2014 bear market. So for now, once again, we are finding a lot of support at around 28 to 28,500 according to this 1000-day simple moving average, which could turn out to be a decent Bitcoin bottom, at least in the somewhat shorter term. But if we do end up seeing a confirmed break below 28,000, potentially with a weekly candle close, for example, then technically speaking, according to Bitcoin's history, it is entirely possible we could bottom out at around that 200-week moving average, which is sitting between $22,000 and $23,000 per Bitcoin. But obviously, there's never any guarantee that we actually make it down towards those prices, which is why I'm simply dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, and I'll go heavier into Bitcoin at that stage just there if we do end up dropping down towards around $22,000 to $23,000 per Bitcoin. But I'm certainly not 100% on the sidelines waiting for those lower prices in order to go all in, because that strategy is extremely risky when it comes to Bitcoin. And another reason on the chart that supports the idea of a potential relief rally, maybe even over the next 1 month or so, like what we saw at the end of 2019 entering into early 2020, is the fact that we're currently seeing a 2-day bullish divergence. And the last significant bullish divergence on the 2-day Bitcoin chart that we saw was back in the middle of last year. And obviously we did end up seeing a lot more bullish price action after that, but keep in mind during that stage in the market, we saw a lot of bullish price action in the stock market as well. So I'm not necessarily expecting that exact same outcome there, but potentially a bit of a relief rally, something like what we saw between January and March this year. And what we have also just seen here on the 2-day Bitcoin chart is a bullish cross in the 2-day Bitcoin MACD. And the last time this happened on this time frame for Bitcoin was back during February this year. And the time before that was at the beginning of October, just before we experienced some more bullish price action. And also back in June last year, which is another similarity on top of this bullish divergence on the 2-day Bitcoin chart between what we saw in the middle of last year and what we're seeing at the moment. And just taking a quick look at the daily Bitcoin chart, looking at the fractal that compares what we saw in the middle of last year to what we're seeing right now. And we're still playing out this fractal pretty well so far. But according to this fractal, we should technically experience a bit more of a dip within the next 1 week or so. Otherwise, if we don't really see any more downside price action over the next 1 week, it's pretty much safe to say at that point that this fractal in particular has been invalidated. But whether we do or don't revisit that initial low that we set during May, like what we saw in the middle of last year, either way, this fractal isn't here to tell us an exact Bitcoin price prediction. Instead, it shows us previous Bitcoin price action so that we know at least what is possible. And for the most part, according to this fractal, it does suggest more choppy sideways price action over the next 1 month, relatively speaking, and then a bit more of a bullish recovery heading into July and maybe into August. But if you're looking at the short-term Bitcoin chart on the 4-hour time frame, what we see right now is a perfect bounce from this golden pocket, as I discussed yesterday. And in case you missed my last Bitcoin update video, this golden pocket is coming into play at around 29,500, where once again we found perfect support. And right now, at the time of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is approaching this line of resistance, coming into play at around 30,700. And if we end up seeing a confirmed break back above 30,700, then I would expect Bitcoin to revisit this high, coming in at around 32,000 approximately. But on the flip side, if we do end up finding some more resistance along this level at around 30,700 and potentially get a rejection from that level, which is possible, then I would expect the Bitcoin price to revisit this low, coming in at around 29,500, and anything below that, we have of course major supports coming into play at around 28,500. And as you might have already guessed, if you're a regular viewer here on the channel, one of the reasons why we've seen a bit of a bounce today in the Bitcoin price is due to the fact that we've also seen a bounce in the stock market after yesterday's sell-off. And if you want to know one of the main reasons why we did end up seeing a bit of a sell-off in the stock markets yesterday, definitely check out my last Bitcoin update video that I posted yesterday on the channel, because in that video, I talked about the Fed news yesterday, which was the fact that the Federal Reserve is beginning quantitative tightening, and that is important to understand. And in recent videos here on the channel, I've been comparing this bullish move in the stock market, specifically in the Nasdaq 100 index here on the daily time frame, to what we saw during March this year, because just before that rally in the stock market, we saw a W pattern form, which is exactly what has formed in recent weeks for the Nasdaq 100 index. And another similarity is the fact that March is the last month of the first quarter, and right now we're entering the last month of the second quarter, which could potentially be another reason on top of that W pattern on the charts as to why we could experience a bit more of a relief rally in the shorter term looking over the next couple of weeks or so. And in that case, if that scenario plays out, that would be good news for the Bitcoin price, because the Bitcoin price and the stock market are correlated a lot of the time. But now heading into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the Ethereum to US dollar chart on the daily time frame, and we still have this active bullish divergence in play. And in case you're new to the channel, this just means we're due to see reduced bearish momentum for Ethereum, and ever since we've formed the bullish divergence, that's pretty much exactly what we've seen. And once again, the last bullish divergence on the daily Ethereum charts that we've seen of this size was back during March, just before we experienced a relief rally while the stock market was pumping during that time. And just giving you a quick update on the Ethereum long positions on the Bitfinex exchange, which are still expanding. We're seeing more and more Ethereum long positions open up, and this right here is on the daily time frame, by the way. So just today, over 50 million US dollars worth of Ethereum long positions have opened up, and within the last 2 days, we've seen over $180 million worth of Ethereum long positions open up. And at the same time as this happening, we've seen another decline in Ethereum short positions today on the Bitfinex exchange. And if you want to know exactly what this means for Ethereum, definitely check out my last Ethereum update video that I posted yesterday on the channel, because this is just a quick follow-up from yesterday's video, because in yesterday's video, I went into much more detail about these charts right here. Now, taking a quick look at Ethereum's shorter term price action on the 6-hour chart, and technically speaking, Ethereum is forming a descending triangle pattern, which is traditionally a bearish pattern, because the price structure itself shows lower highs and horizontal lows, which reveals an increase in selling pressure and stagnant buying pressure. But right now, at the time of recording this video, the price of Ethereum has not made its way back down towards this line of support, at least just yet. So if instead we form a higher low, then that could potentially invalidate the formation phase of this descending triangle pattern, which would be a good sign for Ethereum, because of course a descending triangle pattern is once again a bearish pattern. So if we invalidate the pattern with a higher low forming instead of another horizontal low, then that would be good news for Ethereum. But with that being said, we'll still have confirmed resistance coming into play at around 1950 approximately, because regardless of the descending triangle pattern, that is already a confirmed descending line of resistance to pay attention to. And now looking at the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart on the 3-day time frame, and obviously we're still looking more bearish than bullish in terms of the larger trend here. And that short-term bounce after reaching this support line in the 3-day RSI was obviously short-lived. But if you're zooming in a little bit into the daily time frame for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, we do have the possibility of forming a bullish divergence here, but this has not been confirmed as of right now. I want to make that clear. But we do have the setup in place, because the RSI is well and truly in higher lows, while the price action is nearly in lower lows if you're looking at the daily candle closes. So all we need to see is lower lows in the daily candle closes, while the daily RSI stays in higher lows in order to actually form this bullish divergence. And then to confirm the higher low in the daily RSI, we will then need to see a green daily candle. And if that happens, then a bullish divergence for Ethereum versus Bitcoin on the daily chart would be confirmed. And if that plays out, we could reduce our bearish momentum here for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, which means Ethereum could hold up pretty well against Bitcoin, at least for the next few days, maybe in the next few weeks. But once again, this has not been confirmed as of right now. But if you're looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, we're forming basically the opposite, because of course the Bitcoin dominance usually does the opposite of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And so on the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the daily time frame, we are forming a bearish divergence. And technically speaking, we already have one confirmation of a bearish divergence here on the daily chart for the Bitcoin dominance. And this just means we could be losing some of this bullish momentum in the Bitcoin Bitcoin dominance, at least in the shorter term, which could be a good sign for altcoins. But I want to make it clear this does not confirm a massive altcoin season as of right now. It just means some of the pressure might be taken off the altcoins, at least in the shorter term, if this does end up playing out. But keep in mind, if you zoom out a little bit further, we have seen bearish divergences in the past that have taken quite a while to play out. I'm talking about 1 month or so in order to actually play out. So for me to flip much more bullish again on the altcoin markets compared to what Bitcoin is doing, I'd like to see more than just this. But with that being said, this is still a good sign, at least in the shorter term, for the altcoin market, because like I said, it could reduce some of that extreme selling pressure we've seen in altcoins recently. And make sure to check out one of these videos popping up right here on your screen if you want to know how to keep making money in crypto even if prices are going down. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.